go ahead and start by removing the battery. Disconnect the terminals. I'm going to go ahead and remove the bracket here. We'll go ahead and remove the J-hooks, and we'll grab the battery and remove it from the vehicle. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove the radiator cap. I'm going to proceed to draining the radiator. Right under the lower front center, you're going to find your radiator drain. I'm going to go ahead and turn that counterclockwise. Make sure you have a catch can ready to go, otherwise fluid's going to go everywhere. And turn that till it starts dripping a little bit. And we'll go ahead and let that drain out. All right, once you have the radiator drain, we're going to go ahead and tighten up the drain plug. And once it gets to the bottom there, just kind of snug it up. And that's it. We're going to go ahead and remove the plastic clips here for the radiator cover. Use a trim tool for something like this, or a small flathead screwdriver. And we'll lift up on this cover here. And go ahead and pop these tabs right here, one on each side. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab this battery tray, pop this out, set that aside. With that out, we now want to go ahead and remove this harness from the series of little retainer tabs all the way across underneath the support. Get a tool, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pop this little retainer clip out. You want to pop these tabs off and do this for the rest of the harness throughout so we can separate this. You want to just repeat this process for the rest of this harness down here, and then want to go ahead and disconnect these connectors from the fans. Let's go ahead and press down on this little tab right here. Wiggle this connector out. And we're going to repeat for the other fan. I'm going to go ahead and remove these two mounting hangers here, or support brackets for the top of the radiator, 10 millimeter. Zip that out, repeat for the other side. Using a number 5 Allen head, I'm going to go ahead and remove this mounting bolt for the grill, and we're going to repeat for the other side. I'm going to go ahead and remove these two 10 millimeter bolts. I'm going to gently grab the hose here, break that free, twist it, and work it off. Be careful because it has a plastic neck there. Now we'll go ahead and finish removing these bolts. And set these aside. Now we're going to use a pair of pliers from underneath the support here to grab this hose clamp. We're going to open it up. We're going to try and work that clamp back and off of this hose. We're going to try and do the same for this one here. I want to go ahead and grab that hose, twist it, see if it can work its way off. And do the same for the other unit here. Remove this right from the vehicle and set that aside. I want to go ahead and remove these 3 bolts right here. One is a radiator mount, or the condenser mount bracket here, and then the other 2 are for the support, and we're going to repeat the process for the other side. Along with these 3 here, I want to take a look around the back side, and there's one more bolt right there. I'm going to want to go ahead and get that as well. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside for now. Now we're going to move on to removing the lower radiator hose from the radiator. And using a pair of pliers here, we're going to go ahead and pinch that hose clamp. We're going to try and work that back a little bit. Now you can access this hose from below or up top. It's just as easy for us to get to it from up top. With that hose clamp removed, you can go ahead and wiggle that hose off. Make sure you have a catch can underneath in case there is any residual coolant in this hose. We'll pop this off. We'll set that hose back. And at this point here, we should be able to go ahead and lift this radiator with the fans up and out. And we did find an additional sensor on the bottom of the radiator. You want to go ahead and pop that off. It's just a simple press tab. Pop that off and pull that out the bottom. And go ahead and grab the radiator and lift this up and out. So next what we have to do is swap over this sensor and this water neck onto the new radiator. The new radiator has a port right here, a threaded port. And then we have the neck right here. We're going to put the adapter on with the barbed hose connection. So let's go ahead and start this project. And go ahead and remove the sensor here. What you want to pay attention to, there is a rubber O-ring on here. You want to make sure that that is in good condition. I'm going to go ahead and install this in the new radiator. Now there's a rubber O-ring here that came on the existing plug that was in there. This is going to use the O-ring. I'm going to thread this in. And we're just going to go ahead and snug that down. Now we're going to go ahead and swap over this water neck here. So there is a metal retainer clip right here. You simply use a flathead screwdriver, just pry that out. So once you have that metal clip pulled out, you can go ahead and wiggle this. You can apply a little bit of pressure on the bottom of this tab right here and pop that up like that. Now once you have this neck off here, there is a rubber O-ring on the inside of this here. You want to make sure that it's still in there and not on the neck on the radiator. Now you want to be careful because this part is a factory Honda part. If it is cracked in any way, you do have to replace it and you have to go to the dealer for it. Now before swapping it over, you want to put some sort of silicone on this rubber O-ring. You can use a little bit of antifreeze if you want, but that's going to help us slide this onto the new radiator. So a little bit of silicone, I'm going to rub it on the O-ring. Don't want to use too much, it's just to help us slide this back on to the new radiator neck there. Okay. Now this does have a tab right here, a little bump, and it matches this little notch, so it pretty much lines it right up. Pops into place, and then press your clip on. And there you go. Now we're going to go ahead and swap over the rubber insulator pads here. There's one on each side. Slide those off, put them onto the new one. You want to pay attention to these here as you're reinstalling the radiator because they can fall off, so they might be a little bit loose. So watch for placement on those. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove these 4 bolts here. They're 10mm, one here, 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 and here, and we're going to swap these fans and put them onto the new radiator. Now these here, on our particular model, these are just a standard bolt. and the ones on this fan unit here actually have access to either the bolt side or the Phillips head screws. We want to make sure that we install them in the corresponding position that we take them out on. So we'll go ahead and pull these bolts out. Now at the base here, there's actually pins. So we're going to lift up and out. I'm going to swap this over, line this up, slide those pins in. And get these lined up over here. I'm going to go ahead and do the same over here. Might have to use a screwdriver to pry this base out here. These are metal tabs compared to the other side, which were plastic. Just work that out. You want to pay attention. Clean this up here. Maybe just use a wire brush. We're going to clean that up. Just make it easy for our installation. And you don't have to, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply some grease on here. Not a lot, just a thin coating. I'm going to take the fan unit, bring it on over. Going to line this up. Go ahead and work these pegs in. So even though we tried fitting the pins into the lower portion of the radiator, we can't get these holes to line up. So that's telling us that we have some excessive rust buildup on these pins. We're going to go ahead and clean up these pins so that this drops right in. You can use your wire brush or some sandpaper or something. We're just going to kind of clean these pins up because there's some rust buildup around here, keeping that from dropping in. Be sure to be wearing safety glasses if you're using power tools like this here, and or your wire brush. Alright, so let's go ahead and do a test fit. Looks like these drop right in and our bolt holes are lining up. So we're going to go ahead and put that little bit of grease back on the bottom there. Once again, thin coat. on both pens. Not necessary. Okay. Now what you want to do is use these supplied locking nuts here. They slide into a track right on the top of the radiator. And that allows you to put the bolt in and secure these. You got to repeat this process for all 4 of the mounting bolts. Now we're going to use a 10 mil wrench on this here. We did use a power tool to remove them, but we don't want to over tighten them. So we're just going to bring these bolts down and just snug them. Now before we reinstall the radiator in here, you can see that the cross member is a bit dirty. So what we're going to do is we're just going to clean it up. Nothing crazy, not going to use all kinds of chemicals. Just going to use some shop rags or towels. Over there, you're always checking for anything that might be causing interference when you go to drop this down. Everything looks really good, looks really clean. And we know that we shouldn't have any restrictions of putting those rubber mounts inside these spots in the lower cross member there. Now we're going to go ahead and start to lower the radiator down into place. We do have our hose here. Just going to pop that up and out. Now if those mounts, if those rubber bushings themselves popped out, which ours did, it's going to be simple enough. You could just reach down around put it back on the stud and do the same for this side here. Next, we're going to go ahead and reconnect that temp sensor that we had replaced on the bottom. Press it on, you'll hear a little click on there. The next step we're going to do is grab that lower radiator hose, work that right back on. Now we'll go ahead and grab our pliers. I'm going to try and get that hose clamp back on. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and hook up the hose. And we're going to use our pliers. Swing that on over. Next, what we're going to do is take the crossmember unit, bring this back over, and start to drop this down inside. Make sure that your wiring harness is out of the way. You can pull the grill forward just a little bit. Now on the installation, you want to pay attention to the condenser bushings here, okay, because there's a mount there for bolts to go through. Make sure everything lines up on both sides. So I did put a little bit of anti-seize on the end of the bolt for the condenser hardware here. Line this up. You can lift this up, get that bolt to line up inside the frame there. And go ahead and start spinning that in. I'm going to repeat for the other side. Just going to get these started a few threads. I'm going to start with the reinstallation of the crossmember bolts. Just putting a little bit of anti-seize on these as well. And repeat for the other side. Maybe we'll wiggle this cross member just a little bit to help those bolts line up. All right, next we're going to go ahead and put on the radiator brackets. This is a rubber bushing. Slip it over the post. I'm going to go ahead and get our bolt started. Once again, using some anti-seize on there. And I'm going to get the other bolt started on the other side. The last position of the bolts for the cross member unit here. There's one here. Get that started, and then we'll install the one on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and get these bolts snug down. And repeat for the other side. Now what we're going to do is tighten up the bolts for the AC condenser brackets using a 10mm. And we're going to go ahead and do this for both sides. So now I'm going to go ahead and install the filler neck here onto the radiator. This goes on top of the cross member. This goes underneath the cross member onto the water neck. So I'm going to slide this in. Go ahead and line that up. I'm just going to go ahead and get these two upper bolts started. I'm not going to snug them down yet. We want to go ahead and now get that lower clamp installed. All right, I'm going to use a pair of pliers. And go ahead and work that on. Lock that into place. Now I'm going to go ahead and reconnect your hose here. Press that on. And we're going to go ahead and snug up these bolts. Now it's just a plastic neck here. We just want to snug it up. Doesn't have to be super tight. There you go. Now we're going to go ahead and install our grille bolts here. Going to get that started. I'm just going to snug that in, and we're going to repeat for the other side. Now we're going to go ahead and connect our connectors for our fans. And repeat for the other side. Now in our case here, our plastic retainers for the wiring harness were plastic and very, very brittle. They just shattered pretty much when we took them out. We're going to go ahead and use a zip tie using the factory mounting points. Bring the harness down and in. Zip tie and just cut off the excess. And you want to repeat this for any positions where the connectors have broken off. I'm going to go ahead and install your trim panel. Bring that up and over the latch. I'm going to make sure that the tip or the lip goes underneath the grill. Feed that in around. And then this side here, you just want to flex that in. It goes underneath that mounting tab. Do that for both sides. Next, what we want to do is take the main insert for the retainer clip, pop that in, and then come over to the fender tab here, line that up, snap that in, and repeat for the other side. Now before we install the battery tray itself, we're just going to give this just a quick cleaning. You can use an air gun or anything like that. We're just going to give it a wiping out, and then we're going to go ahead, set our tray into place, pop that down. I'll go ahead and grab our battery. Go ahead and set that down into place. And take our battery hold down with our J J bolts, drop those down. You want to get those caught on both sides. Once you get these bolts anchored, you can go ahead and start tightening up the nuts. Okay, so you can see we have a little bit of play here. I'm going to try and tighten these up evenly. Just wiggle it around until the slack is gone. And that's it. And go ahead and reinstall your battery terminals. And using your 10mm, go ahead and tighten up those clamps. I'm going to go ahead and start adding your antifreeze. You want to make sure you're using your Honda Antifreeze or whatever is approved for the manufacturer specifications. All right, so now that we have the radiator full, it's filled up to the top, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna put the cap on. And we're not gonna lock it, we're just gonna get it to its first notch. So we don't wanna make it tight, just to the first safety notch so that the tabs are securing the cap. Next, we wanna go ahead and look in the coolant reservoir tank, make sure there is sufficient coolant in there. And you can check your min and max level on the side, and we can see that it is actually up to its proper level, so that's good. So we'll go ahead and resecure that cap on there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start the vehicle. We're going to let it warm up and let the fan cycle through a couple times, and then we'll go ahead and double check the coolant and get that cap secured. So we did go ahead and remove the radiator cap. It was not hot at this time. You never want to remove a hot engine radiator cap, but it was still cold. We opened it up and we could add some coolant to this. So I want to go ahead and do so. Once again, we'll just top it off and then we're going to put the radiator cap back on.